Welcome to the Real Estate Entrepreneurs Podcast.
Welcome to Real Estate Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today we have Bob Lachance, Mr. REVA Global Virtual Assistants. It's probably arguably the biggest VA company there is out there. I don't, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, but well, you guys have been around and you guys are pretty big.
We've been around for a little bit. Yeah, I started first VA company in 2014, so I've been around for a little bit.
Awesome, man. So tell me a little bit about yourself, brother. Like a little bit about your background. Where do you come from? How do you get into real estate? That sort of deal.
Absolutely. Well, I didn't grow up a real estate investor. I can tell you that much. I was actually a hockey player for 8 years. I went to Boston University back in the day from 92, 96. Instead of graduating, I signed a professional contract and I dropped out of school 2 classes short of getting my degree.
Wow.
Because obviously, we could always go back and get our degrees. I know you're probably a betting man. Do you think I actually went back and got my degree?
Nobody does, man. Very few people do.
100% never went back. So anyway, fast forward, I played 8 years, 4 years here in the US and 4 years in Europe. And, towards the end of my career, I knew it was coming to an end anyway. I didn't make the NHL. So I was on, always on the brink of making the NHL. So I went over to Europe when I realized it wasn't in the cards, and then played 4 years there and knew my path was coming to an end. And I tried to get into, looked at a bunch of different industries, and real estate was one industry that did not have any barriers of entry. So you did not need a degree or anything like that. So I said, you know what, let me try real estate, and jumped right in 2004. And, fast forward today, I have a virtual assistant company. Obviously there's a lot to unpack there, but I have a virtual assistant company. I also have a real estate investment company. We did over 200 and something deals last year, and we're set to do probably about a little more than probably about 250 this year. So
wow. So
yep.
So let's talk about how you got into real estate. Like,
Yep.
Did you hire a coach? Did you just kind of like wing it? How was that process for you?
Yeah. So when I decided to jump into real estate, I joined my real estate investment association here in Connecticut. So I'm from Connecticut. That's where I live. And I knew nothing about real estate. I bought a course online. I think the guy's name was David Wisnett. I believe that's his name. He was an attorney, but he also, wrote a course like this thick all about real estate. Internet was way different then than it was now, but I purchased the course and really jumped in, and I learned what farming areas. So jumped in the car and I'm like, shit, you know what? I need to be doing something. So farmed areas. And at this time I thought I was a rehabber. My father was a contractor. I used to work for him, but in true disclosure, I was more of a gopher than anything else. He never wanted me to jump into the contracting business ever. So that's how I got my start. And I actually saw a property that was pretty beat up, called the agent. It was listed, made an offer. I think it was listed at 185. This is back in 2004. I think it was listed at 185, put an offer in at 135. Agent calls back. They accepted the offer. And I'm like, uh-oh, what the hell do I do now?
What do you do now?
So what I did is I grabbed the newspaper back in the day, newspapers, and went to the Foothills Trader, and I called, 3 contractors. One showed up to the property. His name was Junior. It was an incredible Brazilian crew. So I hired them. I also had to find money, kind of scrambled at that. I didn't have the exact amount of money in cash. So back in the day, it was easier to get qualified, traditionally.
Right.
So found
especially
the money.
In 2004, 2005, man.
Oh, it was a wild west.
Yeah.
Back then. I miss those days. But anyway, found the money. I rehabbed the property. Ended up making about $32,000 in 2 months, which was fantastic. But I also looked in the mirror and I'm like, I have no idea what just happened. Back and forth to Home Depot. I'm not kidding you. 3-4 times a day. First day I fell off a ladder because I was ripping a roof. I almost broke my shins, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm not a rehabber. So, yeah, it's funny story. And then that's when I joined a real estate investment company. I'm like, all right, I got to get smarter. I got to understand this stuff. And then I saw a speaker speak on pre-foreclosure. And all of a sudden now I wasn't a rehabber anymore. I was a short sale specialist. So I got into the short sale world. I met, I don't know, do you know Pat Precourt?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know Pat. So he was my first business partner. We were business partners for about 10 years. I went to
Wow.
this, yeah, I went to the real estate association and I asked everybody, I said, who is the best person in Connecticut to do short sales? They all pointed to him. I walked up to him. I said, Pat, you have no idea who I am. I'm not looking for a paid job. I'm just looking to join a team because I want to learn at this time, right? So he's like, hey, you know what? I'm actually looking for a door knocker. And I'm like, what the hell's a door knocker?
Wow. You were Pat's Precourt's door knocker.
Dude, I kid you not. I door knock from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. every Monday through Friday, and then he would give me a list of pre-for. He gave me a script and a list, so I was literally drinking out of a fire hose. I knew nothing. When I say I knew nothing, pre-foreclosure industry is not the easiest industry to jump into, so I knew nothing. So my job was to lock up contracts. He would negotiate them. And then I started getting some success. Found a door knocker for myself. Then I started negotiating with banks. Pat and I started or actually, we joined a company, a education company, financial health coach back in the day, and we were running the coaching program behind it. And then 2007, I started another education company with our buddies from FortuneBuilders. So obviously,
Yeah.
those guys from FortuneBuilders. They were the biggest company for a long, long time pre-COVID. So my job and my role there was to actually help start the coaching program behind it and build from within. So the idea was to get all the top students out there and then make them into coaches and then give back, etc. So we grew that from ground up. And then 2014, while I was investing in real estate, I was always looking for. This is kind of funny. I was listening to the number of your past podcasts, and some of the service providers like myself. I know you are too. You have an incredible tool as well, texting tool, and a bunch of
Yeah.
other stuff. But I started the virtual assistant company out of a need. It was all the student. I mean, you know this in coaching. The biggest challenge and the biggest frustrating thing as a coach and as an education program are our students not taking action, and that is a huge challenge in the industry. Everyone's fired up. They'll join the program and they'll be like, you know what? They come home and they're like, I just don't have enough time. So I was looking, year after year, I was looking for a service. I was looking for a product, anything that I could refer them to. So when I get on a coaching call the next week, I get on a call with them again, they actually take action. And then it took me a long time. In 2013, I found out what a virtual assistant was. And I'm like, you know what? That could actually be the answer I was looking for. So I married the education side that helped create and the virtual assistant world. So in 2014, I launched my first company. And then obviously fast forward today, we have over 1,000 virtual assistants.
Wow. Yeah, I like yourself. I created companies to solve my own challenges.
Yep.
I think the first one I ever created was a general contracting company because I had to become a general contractor because I was just tired of dealing with people that were not performing or stealing my money or whatever. So I ended up always managing these the workers actually of a general contracting company. And one day I said, you know what, I just need to become a general contractor. That was the first thing I created. Then I started sending yellow letters by mail, and let's say I would send like a $10,000 campaign. My phone wouldn't ring for another 3 weeks, and I was like, man, by the time I pay the 10 grand, the letters go out and my phone rings. That's just too long. I need to
Yep.
find a way to compress time. And the only way I can think of is by me printing out my own yellow letters and sending them out. So that's how we started direct mail out. I don't longer have that company anymore. But that was the first like marketing tool that I built. So throughout the years, I'm like you. I'm like, okay, I gotta solve this challenge. How can I do this? And then I find myself implementing it, and then I'm like, oh, I didn't know. I have a VA company too, and then how it started was I had 100 VAs working in my real estate business, and then my students will come to me and say, Ricardo, because you train your VAs on acquisitions and dispositions and all of that, we want to use your guys. And I'm like, no, you got to go to, to like another company and hire
Yep.
yours because I train mine. Like, I'm showing you how to work with VAs, but you got to go source your own people.
Mhm.
And they're
Yep.
like, well, you're kind of like giving me the recipe, but you're not giving me the solution to it. So I'm like, okay, maybe I start subbing some of my people to my students. And literally that's how my VA company started. I
Mhm.
had a VA company and I didn't even know it.
Yep.
And then one day I had to make a decision. I was like, do I want to run a VA company or do I want to run a real estate company? And at the time I was a little tired and I was like, I
Mhm.
want to take some time off. So I literally converted my whole team into VAs for other people
Mhm.
and we started growing that way. But it was
Yep.
always because we were solving our own challenges.
Yep. Yep. And the takeaway, obviously, for anyone listening to this is, when you get started in real estate, you never know where you're going to end. You start as a wholesaler, you're never going to be a wholesaler for the rest of your life.
Look, man,
It's just not going to happen.
if you told me 5 years ago that I will be doing what I'm doing today, I tell you, you'd be crazy. You're crazy, Bob. You are out of your mind. Like, never in my life it crossed on my head that I will have a software for texting or VAs or any of
Yeah.
those things. My
Yeah.
my thing was I gotta be a real estate investor, and you create that identity in which you still do 250 deals a year. That's a lot of deals, man. That's
Yeah, and,
that,
to your point, you use your product, right, to fulfill. So it's kind of interesting, and I don't know if you met my real estate business partner, Adam Devine, but really, really sharp dude, a hard worker. You'll meet him next time. I'll bring him to the mastermind next time. But we were sitting down one day and we're like, you know what? Why don't we use our own product to really ramp this up? Right. So, we use all of our virtual assistants in acquisition. They're in TC, they're in follow up, they're everywhere in our business. It's like as soon as that light bulb went on, the only thing we hire in here, we have Dispo in house, but we have a VA that assists on Dispo. We have a VA that assists on acquisition. We have our acquisition guys. We're at 5 acquisition right now. We're looking to get to 10. We have 2 Dispo. We have 1 TC, 1 admin. We got a director of ops, and then Adam and myself. I think I got everyone on the real estate side. But the point is, we use all of our virtual assistants in our business to flood leads in and run the business that way. We have our closers in house. So
so your
for us,
closers are in the US.
yep, they're right through that wall right there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about your real estate operation. What are you guys right today? What are you mainly focused on? Is it wholesaling, fix and flips? What does that look like?
So mainly it's usually wholesaling because we do novations as well. So it's wholesaling, novations. Adam is buying and holding. We were at like 30 something doors. When was it last year? And then we sold everything because the market was hot. And like, all right, for me, I don't want to deal with people. I'll be honest with you. I mean,
Me
every day I'm
neither.
like, all right, I should start buying and holding. I should start buying and holding, but I just can't stand getting a phone call. I kid you not. Like we have a service business. We're dealing with, attorneys all day long, title companies. I just don't need another headache with, a tenant saying, "Hey, my toilet's
A
running," or
toilet or
any
the
bullshit.
AC, yeah.
Yep, yep. So that's me personally, but that's how our real estate company looks.
And where are your properties located? The ones that you were holding or you're holding? You're still probably holding a few. Where are those located at?
Mine are in Connecticut. We're looking, and this is if we could create a remote property management company, we'll do that. That's one of the goals that we're talking about this year because obviously we have the assets to do it. Adam right now is buying in Florida, so he's got some in Connecticut and Florida. I have not pulled the trigger yet because again, I know it's a mind block for me, but it's just pure headache. I'd rather make money.
Yeah, dealing with the issue or the challenge locally, it could be exponentially bigger if it's virtual, like somewhere else, like
Yep.
in a different city. Because locally, you can just who to call. Even if you just got to show up real quick and say, "I'm sorry, we're gonna get this fixed tomorrow or tonight or whatever," you can do that. But
Mhm.
you get a property in Florida, that's a whole different animal.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if the weather hits or whatever happens, if there's a hurricane that blows through, you got to check it out. And I know you're good at in. I know a lot of people do this virtually. So again, I have not pulled the trigger yet, so I can't talk about it. I'm the type of person that I have to experience it. and then I could talk about it. I'm not one of those guys that just reads a book and I regurgitate some bullshit, you know?
Yeah, what I think what we got good at was on the wholesaling side is we got good at doing everything overseas.
Hmm.
So I don't even, so my company is called Top of the Line VA. I don't even like the VA anymore. Like,
Hmm.
because for some reason it's got like a negative connotation in the
Right.
industry. Like,
Yeah.
it's like if a VA is a lesser human being, and I don't see it. I
Correct.
see a VA as my team member,
Agreed.
as if that person is right next to me in the office with me. But yeah, they're in the Philippines or they're in whatever, in Venezuela, or like on my case, they're
Hmm.
all in Venezuela. I know you are big in the Philippines,
Yep.
and one day, Bob, and I'll tell you this story. My office, I had an office in Houston, just like you are.
Hmm.
I can see you're in an office building because of the ceiling
Yep.
tiles and all that, right? So,
Yeah.
so I'm in my office, man, and every morning I have this morning meeting kickoff with my team,
Hmm.
and we were very heavy on dispo because we not only dispo our deals, but we were dispoing deals for other wholesalers.
Hmm.
And I had like 10 dispo guys, and at this time we had is the biggest pipeline I've ever had on wholesaling. Was like $1.6 million on
Hmm.
assignments to collect, and this is all assignments. This is not novations. This is not listing
Yep.
them on the, because we were heavy wholesalers. And I said, okay, guys, we got all this money. It was like 1.3, something like that. And I said, we got all this
Hmm.
money to collect in the next 30 days or 30 to 60 days. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab 30% of that and I'm gonna give it back to you on bonuses if we achieve the goal. And they
Hmm.
were all excited because that was a lot of money for some of them, right? And 90 days came about and I looked at the board and we didn't even hit 40% of that, right? So
Yep.
I got frustrated. I was like, man, like, if I have to go sell these houses for these people, do I really need to have these people on the team?
Hmm.
And I literally just went and fired them all the same morning. Like, I was like, guys, I'm sorry, but this is not working out for me, and I'm gonna have to figure out how I move forward. But obviously, you guys are not hungry enough,
Hmm.
and I can't have you around. I'm sorry, and it's not personal; it's business. And so I let them all go. I kept two people. One of them, his English was broken, so you know, but he was the one selling most of the properties.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, if this guy with a broken English, who's an immigrant, is hungry to sell these properties, why don't I do this overseas?
Hmm.
And my mind shifted right away to, okay, I'm gonna look at my VAs and I'm gonna empower them to learn how to become dispos and acquisitions and all. And I started training these guys. And then
Hmm.
I went and hired some trainers like Max Jimenez and Sonia Ray, and on lead management, on how to talk to sellers, how to talk to buyers, boom, boom, boom. And I put them on calls with these people. And next thing you know, man, these guys are selling all the properties that these guys in the US couldn't sell.
Hmm.
And the salaries and the commissions were completely different. And for the first time as a wholesaler, now I feel like I'm making real money because I'm like, hold on a second. If I give a VA a $500 bonus, that's almost matching their salary in
Right.
what they take home. For them, they just double their money. And even if I give them 750, or even if it's 1,000, now they're
Right.
jumping in circles. So we went completely overseas, man. And you know what? And it wasn't perfect, but
Yeah.
we started doing less volume, but we were keeping more money.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
said, I'm okay with
Yep.
that 100%.
Yep.
And I closed my office. Like, my lease was up. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get rid of my office. and I started shipping everything that I had in that office to like a storage room, storage, and then I started sending from the storage. I'm in Venezuela right now in my office in Venezuela. And here is where we do it all. It's like we buy, we sell, we do the lead generation, but we also do the acquisitions, the dispositions. Now, I did shut down my wholesaling business for a while because I wanted to cater to the clients that were using our services.
Hmm.
Uh, but like you said, I'm getting ready to ramp up again because I have the infrastructure, I have the people. Now I just need to train
Hmm.
a new team on how to do wholesaling. But I rather do it overseas. I rather like 200 houses a year, 250 houses a year is pretty cool. It's good numbers. I just don't know that I want that. You know what I'm saying? I think
Right.
I rather have, because I've done that. I think in 2017, or 17 or 18, we bought like 300 plus. And man,
Hmm.
the numbers were beautiful. We were making money, but I was trapped on
It's
a,
a different head. It's a different headache. I mean, it is a different headache. But to your point on that, and like you said, everyone listening to this, whoever's listening to this, you know, you could do everything virtual, every single thing from start to finish. So last year we were in, I think, 6 or 7 states. Now we're focused in 3 states. And I
okay,
never knew, I wish I knew back in 2004 what I know today, because
of
I would have
course.
made so much freaking money
No,
in
you
a lot
wouldn't
of
be here. You wouldn't be here on the podcast right now, man. You'd be somewhere in the Caribbean. I don't know,
That's right.
retired.
That's
You
That's right. But knowing that you could do this virtually is, for a lot of people, and me included, I was the same exact way. It is a mindset shift. You gotta shift your mindset to know, hey, listen, people will sign a contract with you over the phone. Like we have already, it's Thursday right now. I don't know when you're going to be sending this out, but we already have 11 properties under contract this week. Last week
wow.
we had 17. Right. So, and this is in an industry, or in a time right now in an economy where people say there's no properties for sale. Well, I mean, if you have the right systems, you have to go get them. You have to actively work. Like the dispo guy you're saying, the one you kept. I guarantee that guy's a workhorse, right?
Yep.
He worked his ass off. That's why he was making money. Doesn't matter broken English or not. He worked
Yep.
his ass off. And we're in an environment today, for some reason, I don't know. You could probably add to this. I don't know why people feel entitled and they don't want to work. I don't get it. I don't. We were not brought up that way, but for some
No,
reason, I don't get it. I mean, you have any feedback on that side of it? Why people are like that?
I think what happens is the gurus that are out there showing checks and cars and jewelry um make it seem too easy.
Oh,
So the person gets in our business and they're like, okay, I gotta have what Bob has tomorrow. And but it turns out you started back in 2004.
mm-hmm.
So you are a 30 20 plus years overnight success.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I'm saying?
That's
Like it, you know
right.
what I mean? Like, okay, I want what Bob has built. Okay,
Hmm.
REVA Global, 1,000 VAs and 250 properties a year, and all of these things, right? But I want it tomorrow,
Right.
and it just doesn't work that way. I mean, it is you can have success fairly fast. Don't get me wrong. Like if you come from working the corporate, if this is for you guys out there listening to this podcast and you're in corporate America, maybe. By the way, I'm not a corporate hater because I have a corporation. So, think about it. What do we have,
That's
Bob? We
right.
have corporations, right? So
That's it.
how am I gonna hate on the person that has a job? Like, no way. I used to have a job at some point, and you did also when you were
Yeah.
playing in hockey. You had a job,
Yeah.
so um, it's one of those things that you can come. Okay, let's say what's the average income today in America? Let me Google it real quick. So average income in the US 2024. So, according to this, the annual income from age groups, okay, from 20 to 24 years old, is $39,416 a year. From 25 to 34 is 56,000. From 35 to 44, 67,000. And from 45 to 54 is 66,000. Wow, this is, how can people live like this, man?
I don't know.
Like top earners, 105,500. The 75% percentile, 75% of the people are 68,500. And the average across the board is $58,000. Okay. This is by, I have to quote who got this from. This is by Market Watch. Okay. Which is a company that I guess they do surveys about these things. Now, the reality is that you can come to real estate if you're a wholesaler. If you start wholesaling, which is the lowest barrier of entry, okay, is the wholesaler, because the wholesaler, you just have to have the skill sets to learn numbers and how to negotiate and put things under contract and then find a buyer quick. If you're a wholesaler doing one deal a month, only one deal a month, and you're doing all the work, you're cold calling, which, by the way, you can hire REVA Global for that, or you can hire me. It depends on what rocks your boat. You fire yourself from that job. But if you're starting and you're cold calling, you're lead generating, you're doing the lead management, you're negotiating, you're visiting properties, or you're making offers over the phone, and you're only doing one deal a month, that puts you right away on the top percentile of the U.S., because an average assignment of contract is $17,500 across the board. I'm not talking about novations. Novations are larger spreads for the most part. So that's what, 17,500. That's $210,000 a year, and that's just being a normal wholesaler doing one deal. The thing is, most people come into this business and they see Bob doing 25 deals a month, and they're like, "Yeah, but hold on a second. To do 25 deals a month, that's a whole different ball game, because now you need a team, and that team costs money to run. You need data, and guess what? The data costs money to run. You probably invest money on PPC or call callers or text messaging. So now you got overhead. You got an office. You got, you know, you got a business partner as well, because you're not eating the whole thing by yourself. And then within your organization, you probably have a COO,
Salaries. Yep.
salaries, right? And the beautiful thing about having a business that does large volume is that you're providing for a lot of people within your organization, right? And that's one of the things that I like the most, is when I see somebody with a business like yours. It's like, okay, so think about it. You're employing 1,000 VAs today. Well, how many mouths are you really impacting?
Right. Yeah, that's a big part. I mean, you know that, obviously, having a VA company as well. I mean, that is the part that gets you up in the morning, right? That's the part that keeps you rocking and rolling. It's not about the money. If you do anything for the money, you're never going to last. And I know people always say, hey, get rich in this, do this. You know, we need money, of course, to feed ourselves, to feed our families. But if you do things just for the money, you're not going to last in whatever that is you're doing.
Yeah, I changed my perspective a long time ago, because I used to do things for money. I was very money hungry. You're hungry for money when you don't have it.
Right. And the older we get, we change too, right? The older we get, when we're younger, it's way different. But now, you know, I just turned 50 this year, so my outlook changes just a little bit.
Mine as well, right? So I used to do things for money, and I was chasing, I guess, being a multimillionaire and I was just talking about that in our morning meeting today, Bob. I was like, why do you guys want to be rich? Like, why do you want to be a millionaire? And then they all start thinking, because most of the people don't know why they really want. But the truth is, they want to have what being a millionaire can provide for them, which is maybe a good car, maybe a good house, maybe a better education for the children. It's not to buy a Rolex or to buy a nice suit, or it's never about that. It's always about if I'm a multimillionaire, what can I do with that money for me, right? And that's the
Mhm.
the wrong approach that most people take. It's like me instead of thinking about what can I do with this tool, because money is a tool.
Yeah.
Now, how many families can I bless, right?
Right.
How many charities can I contribute to, or um you know the money is not really the end goal. Is what's the byproduct of what that money can get you.
Right. 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 And I think that let me add to that, because one thing you did touch upon, I talk about this all the time when, I'm going to the Philippines actually next week because we have a meeting there. We have all of our support staff coming and flying into a destination, which is pretty cool. But it's not only there. They think about this. It's not only that person's mouth you feed, but it's, a lot of our team members also support people underneath them. So that one, like you said, that one mouth you feed is really could also be three, four, five different people. So that just spreads out. Yeah, we have 1,000 VAs. You have hundreds of VAs. It's not only those individuals. It's how does that translate? It spiders out, which is, I mean, that's the best part about it. Yeah, you know what? Obviously, it's a profitable business, right? We wouldn't do it if it wasn't profitable. It is profitable, of course. It's not easy. None of these businesses, you said this, to build a real estate company, it's not easy. I don't care what business it is. There's nothing that is get rich quick anything. I don't care what anybody says. That's why when someone, you and I spoke and we're talking about, we both own virtual assistant companies. Guess what? Why not, we could go back and forth and talk about challenges and overcoming them, right? Because we know we built it from ground up. It's not easy. I always welcome anybody to start any type of business, whether it's a virtual assistant company, whether it's a wholesaling company, innovation company, whatever it is, that's okay, because the more the merrier, the more the more we help each other, the more we all win. And that's another mindset shift where, back in the day, it's like, all right, we got to keep everything to ourselves. That's not really how it goes. The more you
No,
give, the more you get.
no, it's I was talking to I don't know if it was you or I got another friend. I don't know if you know Scott Morse.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so Scott owns Lamasu. Um and I've been to Scott's office in Pereira, man. This thing is impressive.
Yep.
Okay. But it's funny because Scott knows that I own a VA company very similar to his, because his model and my model are very similar. We like the in-house people coming to our office.
Hmm.
We run the culture, like it's kind of like a Wolf of Wall Street type of
Yeah.
environment.
Yep.
Mine is not as much, but his is very close to that. Like, he's very good at sales and motivation. And
Yeah.
we were having a podcast, and Scott was like, "So Ricardo, when are you gonna come to Pereira to visit the call center?" And I have an abundant mindset, and I've had it for a very long time. It wasn't always like that, right? Because we all
Yeah.
have, we all grow up, and I said, Scott, whenever you send me the invitation, brother, I'll be more than happy to go and visit you. And he's like, well, the door is open tomorrow if you want to come. And I said, you know what, man? I am going in June. So I booked, this is about a year ago. I booked my plane
Yeah.
ticket. I went to Medellin. I went to his office in Pereira, and I got to see how he run his whole business, okay?
Hmm.
Which is coming from him, you may say, well, he doesn't want to share his secrets, or he doesn't want to share how he's operating, because Ricardo, who owns a very similar business, is going to copy
Yep.
what he's doing. And what we were doing was masterminding. I was asking him questions, and he was asking me some about, because mine is in Venezuela, his is in Colombia. So they're a little
Hmm.
different when it comes to like rules and regulations and things like that. And once I got done with that trip, I said, Scott, do you know any other people that own call centers like we do? And he says, Ricardo, I only know a couple, and that's it. And he's like, why? And I was like, bro, because we should start a club amongst ourselves
Hmm.
so we can exchange information, so we can learn from each other and help each other out, because maybe a client doesn't work out for me, doesn't mean it doesn't work out for
Hmm.
you or for Bob or for somebody else, right? And
Yep.
he's like, put it together and I'll join, right? So I'm like, all right, you gave me the task now, right? So,
Yeah, he outsourced that to you. That's good.
yeah, he outsourced it right away, right? So, um, but people might think, and I do real estate events, right? And by the way, we have a real estate event May 17th and 18th. We can talk about that offline. Um, and I've had VA companies sponsor my event, and people ask me, "Is like, why do you have a VA company sponsor your event when you have a VA company?" I said, "Brother,
Yeah.
because the pie is big enough for all of us."
Yeah. Well,
It's
but
like,
you nailed it. Not everyone fits within whatever that product you have, right? So it's very difficult to service everybody. So it's
no, you
better to
can't.
refer people. You can't. It's tough.
You can't. It's very hard, and then you become like a jack of all trades, a master of none.
Hmm.
So we have our lanes, and we sort of stick to our lanes,
Hmm.
and sometimes we try. Like we've been asked lately for bookkeepers.
Hmm.
I know nothing about that. The only thing I know about bookkeeping is me when I go on my QuickBooks, and I used to do that and do it myself, and I hated it. And I
Yeah.
was like, but I don't know if that's something I want to delegate to somebody, overseas, or I mean, they can see
Mhm.
all kinds of things when they're looking at your books, right? But lately, we've been asked for that for bookkeepers. We've been asked
Mhm.
for executive assistants, which is simple, but in reality, it's more complicated than what it seems because everybody operates different.
Mhm.
So it's not like you can train one executive assistant, one size fits all. It doesn't happen that way. The person hiring the executive assistant needs to train that executive assistants on what they need. You
Right.
know, I want
Yep.
you to check my emails. I want you to
Yeah.
return my phone calls. So some people
Mhm.
like me, I don't want anybody looking at my emails.
Right. Yeah, it's funny, and there's different niches, like you said. There's different niches to get into. So we got into the medical space. I have over 500 VAs in the medical space. So, and that's just something. Again, it's an asset that you have, but you just use it in a different way. And it's not shiny object syndrome, right? Because that's you have to stay focused and in your lane, like you said. So, our lane is real estate and in the medical space. So that's where we're staying. Of course, if there's an opportunity, like we talked about, that is going to be big enough that you see, but it's gotta fit within, your foundation.
So if you compare the two, the medical and the real estate, and you
Yep.
had to keep one, which one will you keep
Medical all day long.
all day long, right? Because doctors are easier to work with.
It's 100%. It's just a different clientele. The longevity of that client, they stay because the pain of having to replace someone. I mean, think about this. Real estate investors are, I'm an investor too. So I fall in this
Right.
category. There's a lot of shiny object syndrome. Oh my God, Ricardo, your VA company is better than REVA Global, or REVA's better than Ricardo. Philippine people are better than the Colombian, or better than Venezuela. So it's easier to sway on the real estate investor or agent side of things. In the medical space, you know what? It's very simple. You help them save money or help them make money, and it makes sense, right? That's really all they look at. All right, because the medical industry is really shrinking on their profitability. So if you have a service that fits and helps them make more money, then that's a win for them, and they'll, the longevity of that client is well over 1, 2, 3 years. And then for a real estate investor, as you know, they sometimes come and go.
We have clients that use you guys, right? And
Yep.
but they come to us for looking for something else, looking for maybe like a
Hmm.
dispo manager, or and we ask them, I say, hey, how many VAs do you have? They're like, oh, okay, I got 5 VAs. Where are your VAs located at? They're located in the Philippines. Who are you working with? Just so we know a little bit of who we're dealing with. Oh, we're
Hmm.
working, let's say it's REVA Global, right? I was okay, perfect. What
Yep.
do you want me to do? That's my question. It's like, well, Ricardo, we need this, and we know you guys supply for this. All right,
Hmm.
perfect. Now, how do you communicate with your VAs in the Philippines? Well, we have a Slack channel, or we have a Discord channel, and this is how we exchange information. I said, perfect. Now, is there a way that you can create a culture in between your VAs in the Philippines and our VAs in Venezuela and your closers in the US to where the information flows flawlessly in between all three of them, because they're in different time zones. Maybe they don't see face to face unless they're getting on a Zoom call, and they're like, "Yeah, we got all that figured out." I was like, "Okay, perfect. I'm good for you,"
Yeah.
because I'm not gonna go say I'm better than the VA. I don't know what those guys are doing. I cannot
Yeah.
say I'm better than anybody else, but I can tell you where I'm good at and what I'm willing to work with, right?
Mhm.
So in a way, a lot of these services are complementing each other. And I've
Right.
seen other people say, "Why are your VAs better than those guys?" I was like, "My VAs are not better than anybody, man. That we're just good at doing this one thing."
Mhm.
And if you are taken care of with Riva or Lamasu or whoever it is, let us complement. Like, we just need to
Mhm.
complement, and we need to learn how to work together. I'm not trying to steal anybody from you, because I'm not. That's not the business I'm in. I'm in the
Mhm.
business of providing a service.
Yep.
So as investors, and those of you guys are listening out there, I would say that one recommendation to learn how to work with VAs and VA companies is to understand that, number one, there's some training that has to happen from you to the VA, even though we train them and you train them too.
Mhm. Yep.
And number two, multiple companies focus on multiple things. Like you say, you have a whole medical division, right? If you get
Yep.
one of those medical VAs that is doing whatever they do, but I've seen most of the VA companies that do medical is like billing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Billing, insurance verifications, prior authorizations, that stuff. Yep.
okay, get one of those VAs to go do lead generation for real estate and watch what happens. They probably crash and burn. They're like, no, that's not for
Correct.
me, because it's different personalities, it's different type of
Mhm.
people that will take on that job. So what I'm trying to say here, or where I want to get to, is as a client, when you hired a VA, know what you want. Number one, and if you don't know what you want, ask the VA company how they can help you, because I will come to you and Bob and say, Bob, I'm a solopreneur. I'm a wholesaler. I want to wholesale. What is the first? How can I use your VA?
Yeah.
And you are going to ask me questions. Okay, Ricardo, what are you doing? How are you lead generating? How are you doing this? How are you doing that? And then probably the first thing you're going to recommend is, okay, Ricardo, since you're doing all the cold calling for 8 hours a day, I highly
Mhm.
suggest you get a cold caller first. That
Yep.
way you focus on the lead management side as opposed to the cold calling side, right?
Yep.
But don't hire VAs if you don't know where you're going, or that the company cannot recommend which way to go. Something we do. We ask them a
Mhm.
lot of questions like, tell me about your
Yep.
operation. Oh, we do this. And okay, man, it seems like you need a lead manager, not a cold caller. You got 3 VA cold calling
Mhm.
in the Philippines. They're giving you leads. Why do you need another one from
Yeah.
Venezuela? They're no different. But
Yep.
you're not converting leads, right? So, what is the major hurt, the biggest problem you've seen from real estate investors, Bob, in Riva? Like, what is the major challenge that you say, man, I wish I could fix this?
So with investors, you mean with VAs, or are you talking about investors?
No, the
Investors in
investors
general.
themselves.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever the VA problem. Yeah, do we
Right.
have VA that are problematic? Yeah, of course, but
Yeah.
it's always the investor, that they don't provide a tool, or who knows.
So I think you nailed it. It's the investor not knowing what they want. So that's why it's very important, like you said, the onboarding and asking questions. Like, a lot of people raise their hand, they say, they let's say you're on another podcast, they say, you know what, Ricardo, I know I need help with a VA. You, obviously, our company, we have to ask and walk through businesses because everyone's in a different spot. Doesn't matter. You have, people that are starting today. You have individuals that have been in business for 20 years, 10 years, etc. And they all have different needs, right? So when I first started real estate, I was door knocking. I was like, I hate door knocking. And then I would go home, I would take that list, I would skip trace it to get the best phone number for that house, and I would call until 7, 8 at night, every Monday through Friday. That's what I would do. And I'm like, this sucks. I hate cold calling, right? I hate door knocking. So what I did was I found someone to do that for me, but I had to do it first myself. So now, like you said, if you walk through and you look at everyone's business and look under the hood, you'll realize for me, you would have said right away, get someone to door knock. You would have said right away, get someone to cold call. And then as we move on, I was doing short sales. Then you'd say, get a virtual assistant to hound all of your clients to update the documents, tax returns, update your bank statements, all that kind of stuff that is needed in the short sale world. And then as you look at it, you'd be like, wow, you have enough leads. Now you need a lead manager. So you would have, it's almost like, our companies are consultants too. And don't get me wrong, we are not. I'm just saying we're not. So don't think we're, I don't run a coaching program at all. I'm out of that business. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on that side.
Yeah,
So,
because then they want to blame you. Well, but you told me to do this,
correct.
this, and that, and
Correct. I'm very transparent, and I think it's important. Just like you, we also use our service, right? We use our service in our other businesses, right? Real estate, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's very, very important. So anyone listen to this, if you're going to, interview a service provider, I highly recommend you see if they actually use their own product. And again, this is just for me. This is my
and
take
look,
on it.
even if you're hiring a coach, are you gonna hire the coach that's actively doing the
Correct.
deals, right? So,
Yep.
I was reading somebody on Facebook posted about that. Is your coach doing what they preach? And or actually, I read this book, The Millionaire Fast Lane. I don't know if you ever read it, from MJ DeMarco. Oh, it's pretty good. And he, I was reading this morning actually that about the teacher that goes to college to teach people on how to build a business, but they never built a business.
Yep.
Right. So,
And let me add to that, because this is actually really important. Anyone listening to this, be careful who you listen to, because you'll have, someone out there that is related to you try to tell you how to run a business, but they never ran a business. I'm sure everybody listening to this, if you got this far, you will raise your hand. You'll be like, yep, I know that exact person. Do not listen to them. Do yourself a favor. Do not listen to them. I am going to scream at the top of the mountain. Do not listen to them. They will be influential on you. Don't let them beat you down.
that's absolutely right, man. I when I was growing up, I listened to so many people on what I shouldn't be doing, or what I should do, but it was always on their best interest, not necessarily on my best interest. And if it was on my best interest, then it was them preventing me from getting hurt or from failing, right? And what happens is, and as you know this, how many failures have you had throughout your career, right?
Mm-hmm.
A ton.
A
Deals
ton.
that didn't work out, deals where you lost money on, maybe a venture that you started that didn't produce, and you had to put money on that, right? And um you know as entrepreneurs and as businessmen that we are, I always talk about our failures, and not our failures necessarily, but like things that didn't work out. A house that, like, my first property, I flipped it and I lost money on it, and I got money taken away from the contractors. That's how I became a contractor. And anyhow, Bob, this is pretty good, man. We got to do it again. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, just you can check us out on Instagram, on Facebook, online, REVA Global, REVA Global.com. Like I said, we post all of our podcasts. I do a lot of different podcasts just like yourself. And just reach out that way if you're looking for any other information.
Awesome, guys. Don't forget about Real Estate Entrepreneurs, Pros of Real Estate, May 17th and the 18th in Houston, Texas. 2 days, a bunch of speakers, a lot of masterminding. Get your tickets now. It's on the website, prosofrealestate.com. Don't forget to hit share, like, and subscribe. Find Bob, find REVA Global, use their services. They're amazing. To me, you guys are the number one company out there that we all know as real estate investors. And look, when you hire services from companies like REVA, you are providing a lot of families for their better well-being. Okay, so you're helping people all across the world, and that is one of the most beautiful things that I've seen about this business, is that you're able to impact somebody all the way in the Philippines or Venezuela or Colombia or wherever they are, by using their services, which, by the way, most likely they're going to do it much better than anybody else that's around you in the US. So with that being said, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.